Welcome to the WanderLearn podcast. I'm your host, Tapon. This is that time of year that I get to make a fool out of myself because I make predictions for the following year and I look at how poorly I made predictions for the previous year. This is my time to eat humble pie and to recognize that, you know what, we're not always right. I always talk about people who like to say, oh, I saw that coming. Oh, I knew that was going to come. Oh, it's so obvious. I knew it all along. But nobody ever admits that they're wrong. And so this is a wonderful annual exercise to remind myself to stay humble, that sometimes I'm wrong also. So let's look at the 9 predictions I made for 2022. If you're curious about my 2023 predictions, just go to the timestamps below and you can jump ahead to that section of the video or the podcast. I made 9 predictions in 2022 and I got 5 out of 9 of them right. So the majority right. If you're actually kind of lenient, you'd actually give me 7 out of 9 of them correct. And let's break them down. The first one, I was so spectacularly wrong. And it's a shame because I had such a great track record of predicting Bitcoin's price. I had nailed it 4 years in a row. So I thought, okay, next in 2022, I predicted Bitcoin price would be $75,000 a year. My God, was I wrong. It's $16,500 at the end of the 2022. So utterly wrong. And it was a shame because all my other predictions of 2022 were fairly bearish predictions. And so you would think that if I'm bearish on the economy in general, why would Bitcoin be going up? And unfortunately, I didn't see the connection there, the stock market and other assets. So completely wrong on that prediction. Poof. But I will predict Bitcoin's price for 2023, and let's hope that I can make up for it. But that's coming down later. One prediction that I did get right, the second prediction, which was that inflation would hit 10% in 2022. It got to 9.1% in June. So I'm going to check that off as yes. Third prediction that I made was that the federal funds rate was going to quadruple in 2022. And it actually went up 16 times. So I was right about the direction, but wrong about the magnitude. It went from basically 0.25% to about 4.5%. So that's roughly a 16 times jump. I predicted a quadrupling. Anyway, underestimated, but was right in the direction. Another instance of that was my next prediction that I had made was that the Standard & Poor's index, in other words, the stock market, was going to drop 5%. It did more than that. It went down about 20% this year. So I was right about the fact that it was going to be a negative market. I just underestimated just how bad it was going to be as a year for 2022. But my fifth prediction of 2022 was great, and I am so happy that it was correct. And that is the fact that the James Webb Space Telescope actually worked. And it worked flawlessly and perfectly. The images it gave us, spectacular, and it's going to have a wonderful career for at least another 10 years. 3 more cryptocurrency predictions that I made in 2022. Number 1, that there was going to be no flippening. In other words, that Ethereum would not have a higher market capitalization than Bitcoin. I was correct about that. The other prediction I made was that Plan B was going to tout his stock-to-flow model, which you can see my criticism of that in the upper right-hand corner, the most recent video that I made about the stock-to-flow model failing. Well, I predicted that he would not admit failure, and in fact, he has not admitted failure. He has most recently said that, nope, it's still good, it's still valid. And also I predicted that Ethereum, just like I was completely wrong about Bitcoin's price, I was completely wrong about Ethereum's price. I predicted that Ethereum would hit $5,000. It's now at around $1,200. So completely the wrong direction, the wrong magnitude. It got that utterly wrong. So my Bitcoin and Ethereum predictions were the worst of all. All the other predictions were pretty much on target, or at least in the correct direction, not the right magnitude. And my final prediction was that by the end of 2022, you add up all the COVID deaths, it would not be more than 10 million. And that was the case. I wasn't expecting a continued rise, exponential rise. I figured that it would start to plateau. And that's what we've seen. We've seen around 6.6 million deaths worldwide, according to the World Health Organization. So there you have it. 5 out of 9 right, if you're judging me fairly strictly. If you're judging me kind of leniently and you're saying, okay, well, the stock market prediction, you did say it was going to be negative. You just underestimated how negative it was. And what about the Fed funds rate? You thought it was going to quadruple, it ended up going up 16 times, but it was the right direction. You had the right idea. If you were kind of, give me that, then I would be 7 out of 9 correct. But those 2 really bad ones for the Bitcoin and Ethereum. Wow, off the chart wrong. So now we get to talk about the 2023 predictions. And this is what I think. Let's start off with prediction number 1. About Bitcoin, I think another country is going to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. So El Salvador was the first country that did it. Then came the Central African Republic. And the third one is going to be, I predict, in the Pacific Ocean somewhere. Maybe Tonga or maybe Fiji. One of those two. Maybe another one. Who knows? My second prediction is that the World Health Organization will finally declare that the pandemic is over. That's right. Yay! It's endemic. In other words, we're just going to have to live with COVID, just like we live with so many other diseases and problems like flu, influenza, and whatever else that we have to deal with on a daily basis. There are actually 5 million people who die every year from communicable diseases. So far, cumulatively, we've lost 6.6 million or so to COVID. So it's definitely one of the worst communicable diseases, but we're just going to have to live with it, get vaccinated or not. The third prediction is that we're going to see an accident in outer space. Some sort of accident. Maybe, all these tourists that are going up into space, they're going to have an accident. Maybe it's going to be a satellite that goes down. Maybe it's going to be two satellites bumping into each other. Maybe it's going to be some debris that's going to run into the International Space Station. Or maybe it's going to be some country firing a missile and trying to destroy a satellite, and then something like that. Some problem is going to happen in space. That's my third prediction. My fourth prediction is about Bitcoin's price. Definitely, fully confident we're going to end 2023 higher than we started. The question is how much higher? Okay, I'm saying that it will probably struggle to get above $32,000. I think it's going to hit a wall around that zone, and that it will probably end around $25,000. That's my vague idea, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be higher than where it started. But that doesn't mean that it won't go lower than it is at current prices. Current prices are around 16,500. It could easily go down to 13,000. That's totally possible. But by the end of the year, it will be bouncing back up and be above 17,000 for sure. Probably even 20,000. Meanwhile, my other prediction is that Ethereum will be going down to $700 roughly sometime in 2023. And why will it go down that much? It could be something with the fact that the SEC will declare that it is a security, and that's going to be really bad news for Ethereum, and so that could tank the price. It could be some other issue that makes it go bad. Maybe some problem with the merge, the splurge, the verge, all these other iterations that they're going to be going through in the next few months. They could have a catastrophic problem. Who knows? But something's going to bring it down. But overall, I'm bullish on Ethereum. I think that by the year end, it will be above where it is today. And so let's just say it will double from $700. It's probably going to go up to $1,400, probably $1,800. Let's just say as a price. My sixth prediction is that the United States unemployment rate will double. My seventh prediction is that China will be overtaken by India in terms of population. So India will become the most populous nation on the planet. And I have three more predictions to wrap it up. Number one, and the most controversial one perhaps, is that Putin will be overthrown. I'm not super confident about that because, boy, is that guy strongly entrenched. But at the same time, I think of people who also appeared strongly entrenched, like Mubarak in Egypt, or Gaddafi in Libya, or Saddam Hussein in Iraq. All three of those guys looked like old, entrenched people who are in their 70s or around that age, and they'd been there forever, and they looked like they'd be there until they die, and yet they were all in their twilight years overthrown in a very brutal way. So I think the same thing could happen to Putin, and that's what I'm predicting, that sometime the Russian public and the Russian powers that be are going to replace him. Now, it's quite likely that whoever follows him is going to be worse than Putin. So don't celebrate necessarily that prediction if it's right. Number 9, that the FDA is going to approve a psychedelic drug, something like psilocybin or something like that, that's going to be approved for maybe helping people with depression. And finally, the 10th, Jimmy Carter, who has been the longest living ex-US president ever, well, his time is going to run out, just like the Queen of England did in 2022. This is going to be your Jimmy Carter kicks the bucket. But he's had a great run, longer than any other US president, so there's that. So those are my 10 predictions. So what do you think? Put it in the comments down below. Tell me what you think. Join my Patreon at patreon.com/ftapon. If you want to see my last year's prediction, just click on the upper right-hand corner and you can see when I was giving that and also reviewing the previous year as well. So that sums up this year. Happy New Year. This is Francis Tapon encouraging you to wander and learn.